Law.com. Steiner's Pub, a true Nevada-style pub. Cheyenne, Buffalo, and Las Vegas Boulevard South. Steiner's, we love this place. Rob Rishi Farmers Insurance, 702-335-5744. Laborers Union, 872, building Las Vegas Stadium, future home of the Raiders. PromoDirect.com, 10% discount code K-10 at checkout. Get Ken's Picks at pregame.com. Let's do this. Sports X Radio with Ken Thomson.
Come with me.
Yeah, on a Friday football fiasco live at the beautiful Legacy Stadium inside the Venetian Palazzo. It is Ken Thomson along with Brad Powers, J.D. Sharp. We're going to roll through all the college football games right into the NFL games. The game within the game will bring you all these spreads, and we're going to break them down. We'll take our time on some of the bigger games and get into them a little bit more. Some of the lesser games, we still will touch on them. And then we get into the NFL the last 20 minutes. We go rapid fire. You'll get some free plays. You'll get some injury updates. You'll find out a little bit about some of the hot weather is going to be down in the southeast, and actually some potential rain in some of these venues as well. SportsX Radio rolls at you Monday through Friday, 8 to 10. For the nights, we are right here at Legacy Stadium. We are here Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Wednesday nights still out at Steiner's Pub, 1750 North Buffalo. SportsX Radio on the new 101.5 on the FM side and 720, the 50,000-watt flamethrower on the AM side. If you have not been to Legacy Stadium, you're missing out. It is a sports fan's paradise. I mean, it is the creme de la creme. Legacy Stadium. Emerald Legacy's food comes out of the kitchen. Days of operation, 7 days a week, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Happy hour, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Wednesdays, ladies' night. Ladies, you get 50% off on a ton of different things. Come on down. If you make it down and you mention KDWN or SportsX Radio, your first glass of One Hope Chardonnay or Cabernet is on the house, or your first Bud Light draft. Just mention, again, KDWN or SportsX Radio. Plenty of college football to get into. Also, want to let you know that the Palazzo and the Venetian right there next to each other, and it's a five-star, four-diamond resort. The room number, if you want to get rooms, 866-263-2999. 866-263-2999. Their tagline, no need to upgrade. All rooms are suites, but they have 1 and 2 bedroom suites, 3 and 4 bedroom suites. Absolutely incredible. And when you see the pictures, when you go online to Venetian.com, it is top of the line. Nightlife, the best there is. Town Nightclub, of course, one of the best. Electric Cocktail Club, Rosina Cocktail Lounge as well, and the Dorsey Cocktail Bar all fall under the Cocktail Collective. And by the way, if you did not know, some of these properties are tops in their industry. The Dorsey Cocktail Bar was actually voted best bar in Las Vegas by Condé Nast Travel Magazine, and that's saying something. Also, the shows here, you've got Human Nature, Australia's Human Nature, doing a Motown show, and they do much more as well. Atomic Saloon Show. Now, I haven't seen it, but it's described as Blazing Saddles meets America Got Talent plus meets Westworld. So that show, 5 nights a week, dark on, or 6 nights a week, dark on Wednesday. How about 93-year-old Tony Bennett will be here at the Venetian Theater coming up this month on the 25th, 27th, and 28th. You can go to the website there, Venetian.com. Right there, click on entertainment. Michael McDonald, of course, the old frontman for the Doobie Brothers, but he's been on his own for a long time. October 11th and 12th, the Friday, Saturday. Adir Miller, beloved comedian from Israel. He will be here on October 17th. That's a Thursday night at 8 o'clock. And also Willie Nelson and Family starts a little bit of residency starting up on Friday and Saturday, October 18th and 19th. And then Foreigner comes in for a residency. That'll start up in January. All that information right there at Venetian.com. Guys, it is great to see both of you. Brad Powers, got to see you on Tuesday as we did the Dream Pod over there with RJ Bell and lots of college football talk. Brad, great to have you as well. And, of course, you do this show straight out of Vegas, a national show on Fox Sports Radio, and professional handicapper and professional sports bettor, and you really focus in on the college football and college basketball.
Yeah, thanks for having me again, KT. It's good being here and excited here as we're watching a good game going down right now, Washington State, Houston.
There you go. We'll get to the Richard Badge and Finley Toyota out of town scoreboard. We'll just give you the 3 college scores in a sec. But J.D. Sharp, he's a guy that comes out from Iowa, made it to Nebraska, lived outside Omaha, but he's an Iowa guy. And so tomorrow, the Cy Hawk Trophy on the line again. JD, I'm thinking, maybe a chance for the Cyclones to get one, 4 in a row for Ferentz and the guys, as the Hawkeyes just find ways to win that game.
Yeah, I'm a big Iowa guy, but I do think that this is Matt Campbell's time to win one game. I like the Cyclones +3 tomorrow.
Meanwhile, Northern Iowa's saying, yeah, he's lucky that they beat us, FCS squad, but a pretty good FCS squad year in, year out. Northern Iowa, the Panthers, triple overtime. I watched that game back again last night. It was an outstanding game, and if not for the alert play of quarterback Brock Purdy in double overtime to dive on a fumble, they lose that game outright there in Ames. All right, guys, let's get into it. As far as the college football, we'll start it up with the first game on the docket, and that's Ohio State and Indiana, and a solid Ohio State start. I mean, this is a team now with a new coach, of course, with Ryan Day, but also a lot of new players. Justin Fields coming right in and making himself at home. J.K. Dobbins outstanding out of the backfield. I like this Master Teague III as well out of the backfield. Give a little help there. This is an Ohio State team that's going to go into Bloomington, Indiana, where the Hoosiers have been tough in this contest as far as against the number, but most of those spreads have been in the mid-20s. Michael Penix Jr., he's banged up, but is scheduled to start. Peyton Ramsey could also get in. Stevie Scott's got to really up his game, better than 3.4 yards per carry. That's what he's averaging right now. That's not going to get it done against the Buckeyes, especially with that defense led by Chase Young. Brad, where are you on this one? Right now, Ohio State -17.5, total 59.5 from Bloomington.
Yeah, I lean with Indiana here, who's covered 7 of the last 8 in this series, although they haven't beaten Ohio State, KT, since 1988, but you're right. They've given Ohio State some difficulty here, although this is the shortest number since 2004 in this rivalry. Just a lean for me on the Hoosiers.
JD?
Yeah, if Penix plays, I like Indiana. If not, I can't take the game. Ohio State is just, they're too superior athletically.
All right. By the way, nose tackle Devon Hamilton is out for Ohio State. They have several other reserves that are questionable. By the way, I did say I'd get you some of those scores from college football. 2 games have gone final. Wake Forest built a 21-0 lead. Sage Surratt had a huge game, 169 yards receiving, and that helped him beat his brother's team, who's on North Carolina. Mac Brown tastes defeat for his first time back in his second tenure there at Carolina. 24-18, Wake Forest holds on, gets the win, and the cover. Game stays under the total. And Kansas spots Boston College up in Chestnut Hill, a 10-0 lead. How about the Jayhawks? 48-14 after that. They win at 48-24. Les Miles getting it done after losing at home in Lawrence to Coastal Carolina. They come back and double up on Boston College, and right now Wazoo and Houston battle the Cougars, and it is a good battle, tied at 14 with 9 minutes 3 seconds to go in the third quarter. Brad, a little bit of a surprise, or I shouldn't say a little bit, that's a major surprise. Kansas not just winning the game, but routing Boston College after falling behind 10-0.
Yeah, to win by more than what they were getting points-wise when you're a 3-touchdown underdog. I mean, we're talking about a 48-point swing as far as the spread goes in that game. That happens maybe KT only a couple times in an entire college football season.
JD, biggest surprise for you?
Oh, it's a huge surprise, absolutely. But it's really not that big of a surprise because Les Miles can coach. He's a good coach.
Got to have the players in Kansas State. Puka Williams got back last week, had a big game. They had 2 rushers combined for over 300 yards on the ground against Boston College, who has Dillon, one of the best running backs in the country, and BC got it going early, but they struggled after that. Skylar Thompson in Kansas State. Chris Kleiman's team going to go into Starkville, take on Mississippi State right now. Mississippi State, the Dogs at home, -7, 51.5. It's Tommy Stevens-led team who was questionable with a shoulder injury. I believe he'll go. If not, Schroeder will go. He was 7 of 11 in mop-up duty last week for Mississippi State in their win against UL Lafayette. We know Hill out of the backfield, pretty tough. Mitchell, Guidry, Williams, pretty good receiving core there for Mississippi State. And Moorhead going to try and open things up on that defense of Kansas State. Kansas State comes off a rout of 52-0 against Bowling Green. That's Brad's alma mater. So, Brad, what about it? The Falcons 0 of 11 on third down, 0 of 2 on fourth down. Not going to win many games like that.
Yeah, in this one, I like the over more than anything. And here's where I think the mispricing is. First off, Mississippi State, you look at them, last year struggled offensively, but were elite on the defense side of the ball. I think this year they're much improved offensively and lost a lot of defensive talent from last year's team. On the other side of the ball, Kansas State, they have like a sense of purpose. It's kind of the last couple of years under Bill Snyder, it grew stale. Kansas State's off back-to-back 500-yard performances offensively, best in school history, over for me.
You know, you mentioned those wide receivers, Guidry, Osiris Mitchell. Those guys are really big. Kansas State's corners are about 5'10", 160 pounds. I like Mississippi State in this game.
All right, NC State at West Virginia. West Virginia getting throttled by Missouri and Columbia last week. NC State, they're going to come into this game and look to get things going with Austin. Well, they're going to go up against Austin Kendall. They've got Matthew McKay leading the way, Knight out of the backfield as well. Had 3 rushing touchdowns on the year so far. 508 yards passing, 2 touchdowns for McKay, the new quarterback replacing Ryan Finley. Austin Kendall, he's got that fun job there at West Virginia, and right now that's a team trying to find some identity with the new coach, and not going to be easy. NC State goes into Morgantown, and Brad, who'd have thunk it, an ACC team going into Morgantown favored by 7. Maybe if it's Clemson, you'd think that could happen, but other than that, this is a little bit surprising to see West Virginia a touchdown dog at home.
Yeah, but I think it's deserved, and I do a weekly spot with the guys that do West Virginia play-by-play, and they let me know. I mean, they're not homers, especially off the air. And they said this isn't just going to be a 1 year. This could be a 2-year rebuilding project. And they told me that NC State, in their opinion, was the right side. So they haven't done me wrong in the past. They're right more than they're wrong. So I'm going to lean with the Wolfpack.
NC State hasn't given up any points this year yet. I think this game goes under. I lean under.
All right, so the under in that game, again, right now sitting at 49. NC State, or make it 46.5. It has dropped down from 49. NC State -7, 46.5 the total. Temple and Maryland, this one went from 4 all the way up to 7. And I don't think it hit 7.5, but it got up to 7. Right now sitting at 6.5. Maryland, the favorite on the road, 66.5 the total. Josh Jackson has looked impressive. Anthony McFarland got into the act last week in the rout against Syracuse at home. They've got Funk, Fleet Davis, Leak, all good out of the backfield. Russo, pretty good quarterback there for the Temple Owls. Braden Mack and Jaden Blue going to try and get the ground game going for the Owls. Owls at home catching a little less than a touchdown. You can still find 7s out there, Brad. 66.5 the total from Philly.
So I've upgraded Maryland more than any other team in the entire country so far this year, and I still can't get this line all the way up to where it is right here as far as my power ratings go. I need one more data point when it comes to Maryland to really significantly upgrade them, and maybe even as a top 25, top 20 team. I lean with Temple coming off a bye here.
Yeah, I lean Maryland here. Temple beat Bucknell 56-12. That's Bucknell. Maryland -7.
All right, so there it is, the guys right there in JD. You can get 6.5 right now. By the way, SportsX Michelle bets like a girl, 24-12. That's her play. Maryland -7. Gave that out last night on Thursday. Miami of Ohio, they're going to be at Cincinnati. Cincinnati getting throttled at the Horseshoe against Ohio State. Des Ridder is back and looking to get back into action. Michael Warren III looking to get going as he was shut down big time by the Buckeyes. Brett Gabbert will try and get Miami of Ohio a road win. They are +17.5 at Cincinnati. Total 49.5, Brad.
Yeah, I'm going to take a flyer with Cincy here. Cincy's won 13 straight games in the rivalry, but 4 of the last 5 meetings have been decided by 7 points or less. And
I like the under 49.5. Miami of Ohio isn't great offensively. Gabbert, he has some weapons, but he's not very – well, he is accurate. He's not going to score any touchdowns, and Cincinnati has a very, very good secondary.
All right, big rivalry game, and it's right now listed as the last time – at least on the schedule right now, Pitt and Penn State. They'll be at Happy Valley for this one. Last year, Penn State destroyed Pittsburgh 51-6, a game that was close for about a quarter, and then it got out of hand. Kenny Pickett, he'll try and cut down on interceptions. He's got 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions on the season so far. Pittsburgh losing their opener to Virginia after having a halftime lead of a point, and then they come back and they beat Ohio and Frank Solich's team last week. Now they're on the road at Happy Valley. Their top 3 tacklers are all DBs. That's not good because that means guys are getting into the secondary. French and Mack decent on the receiving core there for Pickett to get the ball to, and the Davis boys, AJ and Vincent, looking to rush that ball for Pittsburgh and keep this game close. Penn State, Sean Clifford, off to a good start at quarterback, but their rushing game really struggled against Buffalo. They beat up on Idaho in their opener, then struggled with Buffalo. Now the score is deceiving as they win at 45-13, but they actually were trailing at the half and got outgained by Buffalo. Brad, your take on this game? Penn State 17.5, total 53 from Happy Valley.
Yeah, KT, you hit the nail on the head. Misleading blowout win for Penn State. The only time they were covering was in the last score that they had in the final minutes of the game. Not often that you get a team that wins by 32 points and they get outgained and outstatted legitimately. It wasn't like a bunch of garbage yards for the Bulls there. Because of that, I lean Pitt.
Yeah, I like Pittsburgh plus 17. I think, and this is a play for me, I think they can actually win the game. I'm not impressed with KJ Hamler. I'm not impressed with Sean Clifford. I think they've got a lot of weapons offensively.
There you go. Meanwhile, Wazoo, a long touchdown pass, 20-14, 7:30 to go in the third quarter. Extra point pending as Desmond Patman gets a 39-yard touchdown pass. Nice throw and a big touchdown. 7:30 to go third quarter, 20-14. Washington State extra point pending on a Friday football fiasco live at the Palazzo Venetian. And, of course, we're on the Palazzo side. That's where Legacy Stadium is, right downstairs. Folks, if you haven't been here, this is the greatest sports bar, I think, in the whole country. And you can just go online, check out the Google images. Doesn't get any better than this. Meanwhile, Eastern Michigan, they'll go to Champaign, Illinois, take on Lovie Smith and the Illini. Brandon Peters has done an adequate job in the wins over Akron and UConn. Mike Glass at the helm there for Eastern Michigan has thrown for 525, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. The line on this game, Illinois minus 755. Brad, the Illini running out of running backs.
They are, and with Corbin out, and Eastern Michigan's not going to be, I think, overly intimidated. This is an Eastern Michigan program that went on the road and beat Purdue last year. In fact, on the road, as a road underdog, Eastern Michigan's 13-2 against the spread. I think with the Eagles here.
Yeah, I have to go Eastern Michigan. The Illinois is hurt at running back. Eastern Michigan's got a very, very accurate quarterback and a decent running game.
There you go. Lost Epstein, and as Brad said, Reggie Corbin banged up as well for the Illini. That not good for Lovie Smith. He'll have to get some offense from somewhere, and we'll touch on some of the key injuries as well throughout the night. Meanwhile, Arkansas State and Georgia, next game on the docket, and an Arkansas State team that will be pretty emotional tomorrow. Coach Blake Anderson is back. Of course, his wife Wendy passing away from breast cancer just a few weeks ago. And the Georgia faithful, they're going to honor Coach Anderson. So it'll be very emotional. Now, does that come into play? Look, the game within the game, I think it does. Georgia's a 33.5-point favorite, down to 33. 57.5 is the total. I mean, it's kind of tough to honor somebody and have it be all emotional and then just go out and beat them by more than 33 points. But Georgia's good enough to do that. If Jake Fromm is on his game, DeAndre Swift running that ball, I mean, they are going to be tough. And it's a stable of running backs with White, Harrion, and Cook all trying to get action as well. Wolf, Pickens, Blaylock, very solid. Roberson as well as far as the receiving core. Monty Rice leads that defense for Georgia. But Logan Bonner's been pretty solid, including a rout of UNLV right here in Vegas last week. Brad, your take on this one. 33 is where it sits right now, 57.5 the total from in between the hedges in Athens.
Yeah, I certainly lean with Arkansas State for the reasons that you mentioned there. It's tough seeing them run it up here. And plus, keep in mind, Georgia's got a huge game against Notre Dame on deck next week. I lean with the big dog here.
Yeah, KT, I like the over. 58, I lean the over.
All right, so then next game will be Air Force. Air Force in Colorado, and Colorado coming back from 17-0 down in Boulder to knock off Nebraska, much to the chagrin of myself and Brad Powers and J.D. Sharp. We all got beat.
I had the under in that game, too.
Wow.
Oh, that's even worse.
That was awful.
That's a tough one. Colorado favored by 3.5 in this game against the Force, 58.5. There's still some 4s out there. Air Force comes off a bye after whipping up on Colgate. Isaiah Sanders leads the way. They're looking to run that ball. That's all they did against Colgate. Threw the ball only one time. Was a 41-yard touchdown pass for Sanders, but didn't have to throw it. Just ran the ball in Colorado Springs. Colorado, Stephen Montez off to a great start. Fontenot and Mangum have combined for 6 touchdowns on the ground. And Chenault, while you think he may be the main guy right now, he's behind Katie Nixon and Tony Brown as far as receiving yards. But that threesome right there, pretty tough. Colorado, 3.5 in Boulder, 58.5, Brad.
Yeah, give me the Force here. Hopefully they get the job done. I think it's a great situational spot. You mentioned it. They're coming off a bye. Colorado's off the emotional come-from-behind win against Nebraska, storm the field. I also think the start time's a negative for that Colorado crowd. 11 a.m. local start time. Give me Air Force.
Yeah, Air Force has got a lot of experience all across the board. I know they played Colgate, and that's not a big deal, but they're not going to turn the ball over. They're going to run it well. I think Colorado, Fontenot's a freshman. Chenault's fine. I'm not a fan of Montez. I like Air Force, just a more solid team. I think they win the game.
San Diego State fresh off a 9-point win and in Pasadena against UCLA. San Diego State will lay 16.5, 51.5 the total from Las Cruces. New Mexico State getting a cover in Tuscaloosa against Bama. Got beat 62-10, but you're catching 55.5. You're going to cover that number. Adkins didn't play badly at quarterback, threw for 145, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Matt Romero came in and actually got them right down inside the 10-yard line, but couldn't close it out for New Mexico State to get another score. Jawan Washington is questionable. He struggled mightily against the Bruins. 20 carries, just 41 yards for the star running back for San Diego State. But Ryan Agnew played a real nice game, threw for 293 and a touchdown. Brad, your take, San Diego State on the road in Las Cruces, favored 16.5, total 51.5.
Not a strong opinion for me, although I will mention the last 10 times San Diego State's been a favorite, KT, they are 0-10 against the spread as a favorite. Because of that, I'd have a very slight lean on the Aggies.
Oh, my gosh. I know nothing about either of these teams. I have no comment.
There you go. All right, great stuff. Now, there'll be some that JD just doesn't follow. Brad and I, we're forced to do it because we've been doing it for a long time. I've been doing it since Brad was in diapers, but, he's picked it up right now, and Phil Steele's missing you from what I understand over there, Brad.
Yeah, well, that's for a later conversation.
There you go. All right, good stuff. Florida Atlantic, Lane's boys, -2.5 on the road against Ball State, 64.5. Robeson, the quarterback for FAU, he's thrown for 355, but just one touchdown. Drew Pitt, no relation to Brad, he's thrown for, not Brad Powers either, 737, 8 touchdowns so far for Ball State, but they've played Indiana, and they got a win against Fordham last week. Ball State going to catch a couple points. I can't lay points with Florida Atlantic.
I agree. For me, it'd be dog or nothing here. I mean, let's look at it. Since his first season, Lane Kiffin had that 11-win season. What has he done? 5-7 a year ago. Their win total was like 8.5, 9. One of the most disappointing teams in the country last year, and now they're already off to a disappointing start. A couple of blowout losses. It's dog or nothing for me.
Yeah, I lean over in this game, KT. Two really decent offenses and defense that just haven't really done anything yet.
All right. Meanwhile, Bob Davie, struggling medically, so he will not be coaching New Mexico in South Bend against Brad's team, Notre Dame. Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish, were as high as 35.5. It's 34.5 right now, total 64.5 from South Bend. Hughes was going to quarterback, but he is out, so Jones will be quarterbacking for New Mexico. They got to win 39-31 and then had a bye after beating Sam Houston State. Notre Dame played on Labor Day, and they've been off since then after beating Louisville 35-17. Ian Book, 193 yards, 1 touchdown. Didn't really have to do too much because they relied on the running game. And Notre Dame a little bit banged up in the backfield, but they do get their tight end, Cole Kmet, back off the collarbone injury, but Armstrong is out. Claypool is questionable with a shoulder injury, and Smith questionable out of the backfield with a toe injury. Brad, your take on your Fighting Irish, -34.5, 64.5 against New Mexico.
Yeah, largest favorite role for Notre Dame since 1996. That was the last season of Lou Holtz, and with a big game against Georgia on deck, even though the Irish are off a bye, I can't lay the points here with them. I'd lean with the dog.
All right.
I like the under 64, although I did watch Sharon Jones just destroy UNLV last year at Sam Boyd. That was kind of terrifying. But I like the under 64, KT.
All right, there you go. Meanwhile, a battle inside the MAC. Akron, the Zips, with Cato Nelson leading the way. They're going to go against Central Michigan. And Central Mich, after beating Albany, well, they had to go up to Camp Randall. 61-0. They just got lambasted big time. Dormady, their quarterback, is out. David Moore will step in and start this game for the Chippewas. Akron at Central Mission. This line has gone from Central Mission opener -4 down to 1.5, 45 the total, Brad.
Not only is the starting quarterback out for Central Michigan, but also their starting running back looks like he's going to be out. So very limited at the skill position, Central Michigan. I played Akron in the Golden Nugget. I got him +3, and that's about all I'll take as far as this game. Right now the line's about where I think it should be.
Yeah, a lot of players are out. I like the under 44.
Yeah, Jonathan Ward, that running back, he is out for Central Michigan. So another key loss right there, as he has been their main workhorse. Has a couple touchdowns, 161 yards on the ground so far this season. Next game is a big one down in Central Florida. The longest winning streak in regular season college football belongs to Central Florida. We remember they had the longest losing streak a few years back. Now they have the longest winning streak in the regular season. I think they're going for 25 straight. Dylan Gabriel, their freshman, has been solid. He stepped in for Wimbush, who was struggling to complete passes. And right now they're getting back Mack, their guy that was supposed to start the season but was banged up. So don't know who's going to start the game tomorrow, but UCF will be at home against Stanford, and this line continues to climb. It is Central Florida -9, up from 6, total of 59. Davis Mills started last game against Southern Cal. They had a 17-3 lead, but then SC blew their doors off in the second half. KJ Costello out of concussion protocol. He will start for Stanford. They'll need Cameron Scarlett to run hard. Your take on this one, Brad? Stanford catching 9, total 59.
Yeah, I lean with Stanford. I think I'm on an island here. It looks like the whole market, whether it be pros or Joes, are on UCF here. I do worry about the Stanford defense, particularly in the second half. They looked like they were whipped and tired at the end of the second half against a quick tempo USC offense. And now you're facing quick tempo at UCF, heat and humidity in the middle of Florida.
All right. Meanwhile, Alabama, number 2 team in the country, Tua Tagovailoa, and Najee Harris, Robinson, the backfield, Judy Ruggs III, Smith and Waddle. What a receiving core that is. And a pretty good defense as well with McKinney and Raekwon Davis leading the way. Now their center, Chris Owens, he's questionable. Keep an eye on that, but shouldn't affect them too much against South Carolina. Although Saban, they don't go there often, lost the last time he was there. Now Tyler Olinsky, of course, we know he passed away, taking his own life there at Wazoo. His younger brother, Ryan Olinsky, is the quarterback now for South Carolina as he replaced Jake Bentley, who got injured, broke his foot in the North Carolina opener in Charlotte. Ryan Olinsky had a nice game last week, but that was against an FCS club. Now he's going to get tested big time. Have to rely on Dowdell and Feaster, Mon Denson out of the backfield, then Edward Shee Smith and Markway. These guys are going to have to do something to take some pressure off the youngster. Going to be tough. The line continues to climb up to 25, 61.5 from Columbia. Brad.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough taking a true freshman quarterback against Nick Saban. But with that being said, this is the largest home underdog role for South Carolina since 1999. And, I think Olinsky looked pretty decent. I don't think Jake Bentley was that good, even though he's a 3+ year starter. He just wasn't getting any better, so I lean with South Carolina here.
Yeah, I agree. And Olinsky, he's a top 100 kid. I really think this Chris Owens being out, if he is out, it's a big deal. Javon Kinlaw can play pretty well at defensive line. I like J.C. Horn. He's a very solid cornerback. I think 25.5 is way too many points. I like South Carolina.
All right, we'll duck 2 more in, and then we'll take a break. It is East Carolina and Navy. Next game on the Dockers. Allers, the quarterback for East Carolina, has been exciting. He's a dual threat, been pretty solid. He will lead ECU into Annapolis to take on Malcolm Perry and Navy. They've been getting good production from their fullback Nelson Smith, C.J. Williams as well. Navy in the game is -7.5, up from 7, 53.5 the total, Brad.
Lean with Navy here. I thought I'd really like Navy. I thought I'd have best bet material on the middies this week. But, looking into Houston, he's the new head coach for East Carolina. Looking at his background, number one, didn't face a lot of option teams when he was a head coach at James Madison, but he, as a head coach, Mike Houston, actually coached the option at Citadel and at a Division II school when he was the head coach. So because of that, I think he'll, at least understand how to defend the option, and I only lean with Navy.
All right, last game. Oh, go ahead, JD. I'm sorry.
No, lean the over KT, 54.
Okay, over 54. You got a 53.5 right here as well. So we'll go over 53.5. Always give you the best number. And remember, folks, shop around. Make sure you get those best numbers if you can. If you're here in Nevada or one of the states that has multiple apps, try and get more than one account, because a half point, a point, Brad will tell you at the end of the year, if you're trying to make money in this industry, you want to make sure that you get the best number possible. Last game before we go to break, let's look at it. It's Army and Texas San Antonio. Army giving Michigan all they wanted at the Big House last week. Darn near won the game. Kelvin Hopkins, very solid after struggling against Rice. And I guess when you look at Rice having all that time to prepare for the option, they were solid in the game by the Hudson in that opener, only losing 14-7. But Army looked like a completely different team. They were very solid. They'll take on Frank Harris and UTSA, the Roadrunners. Boy, I'll tell you what, Army struggles as far as running the ball outside of Hopkins. Slomka and McCoy, 55 carries, 177 yards, but Kel Walker, just 9 carries, 64 yards. I'd get him the ball a little bit more, Brad.
Yeah, you mentioned Army struggling. How about Army struggling as a double-digit favorite? Since 1986, Army's 14-30 against the spread in the double-digit favorite role. Coming off that emotional loss to Michigan, I lean with the dog here, the home dog, UTSA.
Yeah, it's a tough handicap. UTSA gives up 7 yards a carry, and that's all that Army does is run the ball. Pretty big deal, but I can't touch it either way. No lean.
All right, meanwhile, we'll keep an eye as Houston was able to slow Washington State down. It was a 4th and 1. The Cougs lined up, Washington State Cougs lined up against the Houston Cougars like they were going to go for it. They did not. They ended up putting their punter in, and Houston has the ball right now. They're in the final minute and a half of the third quarter, 21-14 Wazoo leading. Gordon having a pretty good game so far for Wazoo, especially in the second half. When we come back, we will pick it up with USC BYU, a big game in Provo. Southern Cal off the win against Stanford, and BYU off that overtime win in Knoxville against Tennessee. We'll pick it up right there. Game 143, 144, SportsX Radio, the new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN. Ken Thomson, Brad Powers, JD Sharp. I'm JD Sharp, at Brad Powers 7. Follow the show at SportsX Radio and at Ken Thomson 87. Live from Vegas, live at the beautiful Legacy Stadium inside the Venetian Palazzo. We are SportsX Radio on K-Dome. We'll be right back. All right, a little Eddie Money coming back. A little tribute to Eddie Money. All our bumper music tonight. Eddie Money passing away at the age of 70 earlier today, and cancer just ate him up in a short period of time, but many big hits, especially when I was growing up. So Eddie Money, he will be missed. Prayers for his family. And we are rolling at you right now. SportsX Radio, the Friday Football Fiasco with Ken Thomson, Brad Powers, JD Sharp. We do this Friday nights. We come at you Monday through Friday, 8 to 10, and we are here every night of the week except Wednesdays back out at Steiner's Pub. But, folks, if you have not made it into Legacy Stadium, you need to come by and check it out. Great nightlife, incredible food, everything going on over here. And if you want to book it for parties, it's one of the best venues. And lots of great Christmas parties. You'll see them throughout the year. But Dana White many times rented this place out for UFC parties. So it just tells you what type of class. And when you go on to Google Images and just look at the pictures, or go to the Venetian.com and you'll be able to look at Legacy Stadium pictures. It is outstanding. I mean, it doesn't get any better than this. And we are spoiled to be here in a beautiful new studio that was built about 5 years ago. And it's good to be back here. I started when the studio opened a couple of years ago and was here for a couple of years, but now back at the Venetian Palazzo. So you can call, make reservations. It is, again, one of the greatest venues to watch sports. The phone number, 702-607-2665, 702-607-2665, and opens 11 a.m. daily, open till 10 p.m., happy hour from 3 to 5. Ken Thomson, Brad Powers, J.D. Sharp rolling through all the college football games at a pretty good pace right now. We'll keep it rolling with USC and BYU. This will be a good one with Southern Cal off the win at home against Stanford. They are taking on BYU and laying 4 points. Total is 56.5. SC behind the freshman quarterback Keaton Slovis, who had a big-time second half. Threw for over 370 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Carr and Malapay out of the backfield doing their job, and Vaughn's had a big game. St. Brown and Pittman Jr. add to a solid trifecta for SC as far as receiving core. Meanwhile, for BYU, they find a way to get it done in overtime. Zach Wilson, a big-time pass on, I think they needed to get like a ton of yards. I think it was a 4th and 17, and they ended up getting it. Tyson Williams also had a big game for BYU, and they win a game that Tennessee looked like they had in the bag. Brad Powers, your take on this game, because BYU's going to have some momentum, and they're also going to have a lot of fans there. Southern Cal won't have as many fans because BYU just doesn't give up those tickets.
Yeah, and BYU last week, it was 3rd and 6 at their own 20-yard line. They get a 64-yard pass, KT, with 20 seconds left. After the end of the play, there's 6 seconds left. They take a timeout, kick a field goal on the final play to force overtime in that one. So a miracle win for BYU to force overtime there. Although I'm going to lean with BYU. I just, Slovis looked great last week. This is his first true road start, hostile environment, played in a little elevation now. I'm wondering how USC handles success because, quite frankly, KT, Helton's not been great as a favorite. Only covered 7 of his last 23 games in the favorite role.
BYU's a big team. Slovis is about 185 pounds. I think if he gets hit a couple of times, he could get a little scared on the road. I like BYU. I don't lean BYU. I'm not really sure what to take with this game. It's kind of a no play for me, to be honest.
Yeah, BYU a very physical team, but so is Stanford. So yeah. SC coming off that game, and of course BYU off the game with Tennessee, but a big win against an SEC team. Zach Wilson looking to get it going, and Simon and Bushman, 2 very solid receivers. Meanwhile, the Cougars, that's the Washington State Cougars, in the end zone again, early 4th quarter, now 27-14, but there is a flag down, so take that touchdown off for right now, and it's going to be offensive pass interference on Wazoo, so do not count that touchdown yet. It'll be a 2nd down for the Washington State Cougars, who lead 21-14. Rolling on down, next game on the docket, we've got Georgia Southern Golden Eagles. They are at Minnesota to take on a Golden Gopher team. Pretty fortunate to come out of Fresno State with a W. Somehow, some way they got that game tied, and then they win it in double overtime. They also had a tough game against South Dakota State, beat them by a touchdown. Justin Tomlin will replace Shea Wertz in this game at quarterback for Georgia Southern. Morgan, he'll try and get things going, and he's got a running game with Rodney Smith and Mo Ibrahim that's pretty solid right now, Brad. In the game, Minnesota, pretty good-sized favorite, and rightly so. Favored by 16.5, total 45.
Yeah, I really don't have a play here on this one, KT. Shai Wertz, questionable. Looks like they're going to go with the other quarterback for the second consecutive game for Georgia Southern. You're right. Minnesota's very fortunate to be 2-0. In fact, they struggled even in the opener against South Dakota State. Haven't been able to get margin against either team. Now they're expected to get margin here. I don't think so.
All right. JD?
I lean Minnesota. I like Bateman and Johnson. Georgia Southern's given up 7 touchdowns through the air thus far this year. Tomlin's 48% completion percentage. I like Minnesota.
All right. UNLV, Tony Sanchez got crushed at home against Arkansas State last week.
Yeah, guys, where's my money?
It'll be there. I mean, I got my money, man.
All right,
it's here. It's here. It's right in the pocket. Yes, and we got what? Well, wait. You gave us.
It was bowl game, right?
For a bowl game.
Bowl game.
Okay.
Yeah, bowl game.
Remember, you initially
good luck with that.
Initially you were doing. you could have stayed with just the one game. You'd already been collecting, but then you gave us 6-1 on a bowl game.
Right. You got very greedy, Brad. That's what happened, which is fine.
We'll see if Tony Sanchez makes a quarterback switch. Armani Rogers was atrocious last week trying to throw the ball. Kenyon Oblak came in, threw for 129 and a touchdown. Rebs going in there with Charles Williams, one of the leading running backs in the country right now with 4 touchdowns, getting 9 yards per carry, but he'll need some help. They'll play a Northwestern team coming off a bye. Hunter Johnson struggled mightily and was replaced by Green, but then Green got hurt. Now Bowser, the running back, also out for Northwestern, so they'll go with Jesse Brown, and they've got another running back, the fourth. I'm trying to remember. Moten the fourth.
John Moten the fourth.
Couldn't read my own writing there, but yes, John Moten the fourth. UNLV at Northwestern. Northwestern 17.5, 52.5 from Evanston, Brad.
Yeah, I certainly don't want to lay a big number with this stodgy Northwestern offense, but, I mean, is UNLV going to be capable of scoring some points against a rather stingy Northwestern defense? I mean, at least those guys are healthy on that side of the ball. So I think, if anything, I lean under here.
Northwestern's got a very, very small defensive line, about 6'2", 265 across the board. UNLV has a very, very big offensive line, and Patty Fisher doesn't run a 4.5. Armani Rogers does. I like UNLV to cover the 20.
There you go. Meanwhile, they do have 2 of the better linebackers with Fisher and Gallagher. Northwestern does. So we'll see if Tony's guys can take care of business on the road and get inside that number. But he needs to win games. Northwestern 17.5, total 52.5. Tulsa at home off a win at San Jose State, taking on Oklahoma State. Pretty good Oklahoma State team. I like Spencer Sanders, the quarterback. Pretty solid. Chubba Hubbard, outstanding out of the backfield. Drew Brown got some action at quarterback last week as well. Oklahoma State beating Oregon State and then McNeese State. Meanwhile, Tulsa 1-1. They'll rely on Shamari Brooks out of the backfield and Wilkerson as well to help out Zach Smith. Brad, your take. Tulsa catching 14 against Okie State, game inside the state of Oklahoma.
Yeah, I like Oklahoma State here. And looking at the matchup, I mean, when you're looking at Oklahoma State, they had to replace their quarterback and running back this year. I think they've upgraded at both positions, and I think there's some mispricing there. Looking at Tulsa, they've been okay so far this season. Got a cover against Michigan State, went on the road and beat San Jose State. But I look at the past meetings. Is Oklahoma State willing to run it up? And they have 3 straight meetings against Tulsa. Average cover by 20 points per game. The offense for Oklahoma State averaging 61 points per game. I think they put one on Tulsa here. I like the Cowboys.
And they actually played pretty well against the pass against a decent Oregon State team with their passing game. I agree with Brad. I like Stoner, Wallace, Hubbard, and Sanders look good. I'll take Oklahoma State minus 14 here.
There you go. Memphis and South Alabama from Mobile. Memphis minus 19.5, 55.5 the number there. Brady White will lead the Tigers into Mobile after a 15-10 win at home against Mississippi and then routing Southern 55-24. Cephas Johnson, the main guy there for the Jags of South Alabama, who really gave Nebraska a tussle in Lincoln before taking care of business against Jackson State, Walter Payton's alma mater, last week. In this game, I look up at the line and I see Memphis 19.5, total 55.5, Brad.
I like the over here. Memphis has been improved defensively, but they're still running some tempo on the offensive side of the ball. And, South Alabama's much improved offensively. I like the over.
I think this USA team is going to cover a lot of games this year. Cephas Johnson is 6'5". He's a good athlete. They've got some talent on the offensive side of the ball. I like South Alabama plus 19.
There you go. And if they play the way they did against Nebraska, they may have a chance to get inside that number. Big one for JD. That's right, his home state, and he's an Iowa guy, but he is going to lean to the other guys in this one as he thinks it's Matt Campbell time. This line has dropped a little bit, and now Iowa finds themselves a 1-point favorite, 42.5. The game will be in Ames. Brock Purdy, as I mentioned earlier, a great hustle play against Northern Iowa in double overtime to get on a fumble. Had it been recovered by the Panthers, they'd have lost that game. Instead, they found a way to get it done. Sheldon Croney became the main workhorse in the second half out of the backfield and was pretty solid. Their linebacker core was Spears, Rose, and Vance. Outstanding. That's an advantage there. Usually you don't get an advantage on Iowa in the linebacker department. Sargent and Young out of the backfield to help out Nathan Stanley. He's their quarterback. He'll try and get it to Smith-Marset. They are missing Jackson on that offensive line, and also Bamwert is questionable at right guard. We'll see how that pans out. But defensive end, A.J. Epinesa, he's one of the best in the country. Brad Powers, your take on this one? Iowa minus 142.5 in a game that the Hawkeyes have won 4 straight.
Iowa State coming off a bye. Give me the Cyclones.
Yeah, and Iowa plays kind of a bend but don't break defense. Against Brock Purdy, that's not going to work. He's a 70% completion guy. If Matt Higgins isn't playing, and I don't think that he is, they're going to have a hard time covering Deshaunte Jones. Ojemudia is he's like 6'2", 210, but he's not very fast. They're going to go under him. And then Iowa State's defensive line, 6'1", 310. 6'1", 310, 6'6", 280, 6'2", 270. They have legitimate size this year. They have the players across the board to be competitive. And honestly, Iowa's biggest advantage in this game is at punter, in my opinion. I like Iowa State to win the game.
All right, there you go. That's coming from the guy that grew up in Iowa. Iowa State right now. Hawkeyes minus 142.5 from Ames. Colorado State, Arkansas. The line going towards Colorado State has dropped from 12.5 down to 10. Colorado State sees that total go up as well, 58.5 up to 64. I think it makes a lot of sense. Colin Hill has been outstanding, 7 touchdown passes, 2 interceptions. That's what hurt them against Colorado, the 4 turnovers. Colorado didn't turn it over at all. And then they beat Western Illinois, beat up on the Leathernecks last week 38-13. Meanwhile, Arkansas, they're going to replace Ben Hicks. They're going to go with Nick Starkel now to start the game. Starkel, the transfer from Texas A&M. In this game, the total, again, 64, up from 58.5, and Arkansas minus 10, Brad Powers.
Yeah, I wanted to take Arkansas with the revenge spot. I mean, last year they blew an 18-point lead against Colorado State in Fort Collins, but I mean, looking at this Arkansas offense, I mean, what in the world's going on? 20 points in the opener against Portland State. And then even last week, you look at their couple of touchdowns. One was a big fumble return touchdown, and then they scored a garbage touchdown with like a minute 20 left in the game. So can you really trust this offense to cover a double-digit spread here? I can't.
Yeah, I agree. I like Colorado State. 63.5 is not enough. This total should be 70, 71. Colorado State doesn't play good defense, and Arkansas's their corners are actually they're kind of young. Colorado State is going to score a lot of points in this game. And Arkansas, if they cover this 10, they have to score a lot of points too, and I don't think they can.
There you go. Western Kentucky, they'll take on Louisville. Line now has just gotten over 10.5. Total is 49. Cardinals favored after getting a cover against Notre Dame in their opener. Stephen Duncan has turned the ball over 4 times via the airways, 4 interceptions there for the Hilltoppers. They lost their opener to Central Arkansas, got outscored 21-0 at home in the fourth quarter, lost by a touchdown. But they bounced back and beat Florida International on the road last week, 20-14. Rather impressive just to get that W. Meanwhile, Louisville, after the Notre Dame game, knocked off Eastern Kentucky, an FCS team, 42-0. Brad Powers in the game. Again, Louisville, 10.5, total 49.
Yeah, now the line's up through a key number of 10. I don't think there's as much value on Louisville here. They've been impressive. I mean, I thought they came out with a good, solid game plan against the Irish. And then, their defense looked apart last week, getting a goose egg. Keep in mind, it was a defense at the end of last year, gave up 5 straight games of 50-plus points. If push comes to shove here, I guess I would lean with Louisville. But, again, some value sucked out of the marketplace.
I'm looking at the under 51. I am impressed with what Louisville is doing. They do run the ball very, very well, but I can't trust pass at minus 10. I can't do it.
All right, about 2.5 minutes left in this hour, and then we'll take a break. We've got Arizona State at Michigan State, a revenge game for Sparty, and the line has climbed big time. Opened 10.5 for a brief second, got up to 13.5, then 14, sat at 14. Now it's 14.5, total 42. Sparty, the defense has been outstanding. Willikis, one of the best in the business from his defensive tackle position, already 3.5 sacks. Brian Lewerke try and take care of that football. Collins and Hayward out of the backfield. Darrell Stewart, their main threat as far as catching that football. They've beaten Tulsa and Western Michigan, and they handled the Broncos rather easily, 51-17. Meanwhile, Jaden Daniels leads Arizona State into East Lansing. This will be his first road game. Benjamin at times has been okay, but his yard per carry average only 3.7 on the season. Brandon Ayuk has been very solid out of the receiving core there for the Sun Devils. He and Darby will try and stretch the field a little bit. Their wins against Kent State and Sac State, neither one rather impressive. This is a big revenge game. Brad, I know you got on this game early. You got a good number. Michigan State's your choice in this one.
Yeah, I do like the Sparties here. Looking at it, though, I mean, it's through a key number of 14, and, earlier in the week you could have gotten even at circa like 10, 10.5. So, I mean, the number, I agree with the line move here, but, I mean, I just don't see how Arizona State has success. Jaden Daniels has been okay, but who have they played? And now he's going against one of the best defenses in the country. First road start. I like Michigan State here.
Yeah, the Michigan State defense is pretty impressive, especially at D-line. I'm happy I got them. I'm going to brag about this. I got them at 200-1 to win the national championship earlier in the year, and I feel very, very good about that. I like the wide receiving core. And Elijah Collins looked good at running back last week. Their wide receivers are about 6'2", 220, 6'3", 215. I think Arizona State's just too small to compete. I like Michigan State with 14 and the under.
And we'll duck one more in before the break. North Texas, the Mean Green at Cal. Cal coming off the win after the weather delay, beating Washington for the second straight year, this time in Seattle. North Texas getting blown out. Mason Fine not getting a lot of help, but he can chuck that ball. Garbers only 53 yards passing, rushed for 26 more, but the two takeaways were big for Cal. They'll take it. They didn't give the ball up at all, and they end up winning that game against Washington by a point. Cal laying 14 right now, 50.5 against North Texas. There's no doubt that defense for the Cal Bears playing pretty good ball, Brad.
Yeah, I think this is a case where if it was 15, 20 years ago, they'd be laying more. I mean, off a big outright upset win over Washington. I wanted to fade Cal here, but the number came a little short, so it's a pass at the current line.
Yeah, I'll take North Texas with a plus 14. I like Fine. I think that Washington is a little overrated. I like them to cover the 14.
There you go. Tim DeRuyter doing an outstanding job with that defense. It's going to do it for hour number one as we look at the out-of-town scoreboard. Rich Badge and Finley Toyota out-of-town scoreboard. Tampa Bay 7-3 over the Angels. Bottom of the sixth there. 8-5 White Sox lead at Seattle. That's bottom four. 10-8 Colorado over San Diego, bottom 8. 4-3 Cincy at Arizona, top 8. And San Fran a 1-0 lead, top 7 over Miami. We'll get you caught up on all the football. We're live from Vegas, live at the Venetian Palazzo at Legacy Stadium. Hour number one in the books on the new 101.5 FM, 720 AM. You're listening to Sports X Radio. I'm Ken Thomson. We'll be right back. Yes, on a Friday football fiasco live at Legacy Stadium, 702-607-2665, 607-2665 for reservations. Please, folks, check it out. Now, there's some days you're going to be able to walk in. Not a problem if there's not a lot of sports action going. You want to come in for lunch, but if you're looking to come in for dinner and there's football going on or basketball, NBA basketball, and when we get into hockey with the Vegas Golden Knights, please call ahead for reservations. 3 to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, you've got happy hour, ladies' night on Wednesdays, and daily operation 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. right here at Legacy Stadium inside the beautiful Venetian Palazzo, five-star, four-diamond resort, one of the nicest properties in the entire world. Bar none. The rooms are absolutely fantastic. If you're looking for room reservations, 866-263-2999, 866-263-2999. No need to upgrade. All rooms are suites, but they do have 1 and 2 bedroom suites, 3 and 4 bedroom suites. Absolutely phenomenal, no matter what you need. And if you're looking to have a bachelorette party, everything you need is right here on property. Nightlife with Tao Nightclub, Electric Cocktail Club, Rosina Cocktail Lounge, the Dorsey Cocktail Bar, all part of the Cocktail Collective. And, of course, we've got great entertainment right now rolling at you. Australia's Human Nature, 5 nights a week, doing their Motown and more. The Atomic Saloon Show, which I'm going to take in with my wife, Christina. Also, Tony Bennett, 93 years young. He'll be starting up at the Venetian Theater on Wednesday the 25th. Michael McDonald, he is in town October 11th and 12th, also at the Venetian Theater. Adir Miller, a beloved comedian from Israel, is here on a Thursday night special show October 17th. Willie Nelson and Family makes it in October 18th and 19th, starts a little residency there, and then Foreigner comes in town starting up in January of 2020. Ken Thomson, Brad Powers, JD Sharp. We are rolling through the college football. We're going to get into the NFL as well, going at a pretty rapid pace. Where we left off, Brad Powers, you tell me.
KT, we left off on Louisiana Tech Bowling Green.
There you go. Meanwhile, Wazoo on the move, up 21-17 with 8:25 to go. They're deep in Houston territory. The only game still going on the college football circuit. Other two games are final. 48-24 Kansas rolled at Boston College, and 24-18 Wake Forest held off North Carolina. Major League Baseball, the big final in the National League Cubbies, 17-8. They rout Pittsburgh. They gain ground on Washington. As far as the wild card, the Mets lose, as does Milwaukee, getting shut out by St. Louis 10-0. So both those teams lose ground to the Cubs as well. And in the wild card. Meanwhile, the American League wild card is real tight. Oakland gets a win tonight. Tampa Bay, they're up 7-3 in the 7th, and they are looking good. And Cleveland's game with Minnesota was rained out. Game was tied at 2 apiece in the 3rd inning. So they'll make that game up, I'm pretty sure, on Sunday, maybe tomorrow, as part of a doubleheader, because they do not have another series in Cleveland. These are the last 3 games for Cleveland and Minnesota. All right, we pick it up now. It is La Tech and Bowling. Is that right? La Tech and Bowling Green? La Tech and Bowling Green. Brad's alma mater, man. I can't miss out on that. La Tech and Bowling Green. Let me see if I can find that line as I try to get back there. There we go. It is La Tech 11.5, 58.5. And Jamar Smith, he's a one-man band for La Tech some of the time. Now, deceiving score when they lost 45-14 to Texas because they moved the ball rather well, but they did struggle in their last game, 20-14 win against Grambling. Meanwhile, Bowling Green, Darius Wade, the Boston College transfer, they routed Morgan State, but then they got their butts kicked 52-0 in the Little Apple against Kansas State. They're going to need to do better than that if they want to cover against La Tech. Brad, it's your alma mater. You know this team pretty well. What about it? The Falcons of Bowling Green catching 11.5 against La Tech's Bulldogs.
Yeah, so Bowling Green in their last 19 home games have only covered 3 of them. I know they got a new coaching staff and whatnot, but all the optimism that we had after week 1, and I say we because I went there, but that went by the wayside, didn't it? After last week's shutout loss against Kansas State, for me it's La Tech or nothing.
Yeah, they looked historically bad last week. It doesn't sound like Andrew Clare is playing this week, and he played well in the first week. And Jamar Smith for La Tech, he threw for about 350 against that Texas team. That team's pretty decent. I lean La Tech minus 11.
All right. So next game on the docket, Southern Miss and Troy, as Wazoo now.
Buffalo Liberty, KT.
I'm sorry, Buffalo Liberty. There you go. Matt Myers leading Buffalo. Remember, they led Penn State and Happy Valley last week at the half, 10-7. They outgained them 429 to 359, but they came up short on the scoreboard. A rather deceiving score as Penn State actually put a number on them score-wise in the second half. Calvert and Hickson, the combination for Liberty, who got shut out by Syracuse and then lost 35-14 against UL Lafayette. Buffalo is favored by 6, up from 4.5. Total 55, Brad.
Yeah, a lot of money came in on Buffalo. I could see the reason because they're coming off that misleading blowout loss against Penn State, but it's through my number at this point. A little pricey laying this kind of number, and it looks like Hugh Freeze is actually going to coach from the sidelines this week. I think Liberty gets a little bit of emotional boost there. I lean with the Flames.
Yeah, 2 decent offenses going after it. I like the over 56 KT.
All right, and Houston gives up a touchdown to Wazoo, 27-17, extra point pending, 6:43 to go as the Cougs drive 96 yards. That's a backbreaker right there for the Houston Cougars. Pick it up now with Southern Miss and Troy. It is Abraham and Southern Miss, the Golden Eagles, coming off a loss 38-15 against Mississippi State down in Starkville. No running game really to speak of right now for Southern Miss. They've struggled to move the ball. Caleb Barker will lead Troy at home. They had a bye after their win against Campbell, an FCS club. In the game, Troy, the Trojans, favored 3, 49 against Southern Miss. Brad?
Yeah, I like Southern Miss here, plus the field goal. I mean, this was a team that was -3 in turnovers last week. Actually, a little bit closer than what the final indicated in that loss against Mississippi State. Do we really know what we got with Troy this year? I mean, they played Campbell and had a bye. They got a new head coach. I'll trust Southern Miss here plus the 3.
So this is an interesting game. This is a game where I'm going to take Troy money line. I wouldn't touch the spread. I would go the plus, or I would go the -160 with Troy money line in this play if I were to make a play on it.
Why do you like Troy?
I like Troy because they're good against the run. I realized it was Campbell, but I think they had 20 carries for 35 yards or something to that effect. Their quarterback's relatively accurate, and they've got a decent run game.
And Southern Miss banged up. Their top 2 running backs are questionable or even out for this game, KT.
All right, and yes, I'll hit on some of those injuries. We'll pick it up now. Charlotte at home, off the win at Kansas. Looks even better after Kansas doubling up on Boston College tonight. UMass with Randall West at the helm, who's been banged up. They lost to Rutgers, and then they lost to FCS Southern Illinois 45-20. It's a pretty good FCS team. NC Charlotte with the wins over Gardner-Webb, and lost to Appalachian State. If that's, boy, I'm looking at that.
Yeah, they
Is
lost
that right?
that.
Okay, so
Yep.
Charlotte, I was thinking of Coastal Carolina that got the win at Kansas, so forgive me on that. Charlotte losing in Boone, North Carolina against Appalachian State. And in the game right now, Charlotte favored 21 over UMass, 66.5. It's a lot of points, Brad.
It is a lot of points for Charlotte. I will say that misleading 15-point loss against App State last week. I mean, they were -2 in turnovers, allowed a block punt return touchdown. App State had a 45-yard onside kick return touchdown that game. So Charlotte pretty much played App State even. With that being said, do I want to lay 20 with a program like Charlotte? It's just finding, learning how to win football games. I routinely see this, KT. Whenever a team loses to an FCS team, especially a blowout loss that UMass suffered last week, market throws that team in the trash. I think too much this week. I'd actually lean with UMass.
Two teams I know nothing about. I have no choice but to defer to Brad Powers on that one.
There you go. Well, Brad, Southern Illinois, not a bad FCS team year in, year out.
Yeah, no, I would say a little bit above average, and I got away from Massachusetts a little bit. I think people would be shocked that I think it was like 13-10 at halftime. UMass was actually leading.
All right. I just wanted to see if they had busted into the top 25. Southern Illinois, they are not there this year. All right, next game on the docket, we find Ohio coming off the loss at Pittsburgh against Marshall, who hung with Boise State on the blue carpet, lost 14-7. Boise State kneeling on the ball inside the 10-yard line, much to the chagrin of people that laid 12 in that game, which closed at 14. Marshall laying 5, 48.5. It's a Marshall team that Isaiah Green was running the show. At quarterback Alex Thompson came in and did a nice job. And I like Alex Thompson because he spells his name without the P, the way it should be, Thomson. Wins against VMI.
That's valid.
There you go. And Nathan O'Rourke, pretty good quarterback there for Ohio. Pretty accurate. Win against Rhode Island, but the loss against Pitt. Brad, your take on this one? Again, Marshall -5, 48.5.
Yeah, and Rourke wasn't healthy last week. I mean, he basically played with a fever against Pittsburgh, so the offense for Ohio was subpar, and they really couldn't protect him. I mean, he gave up a ton of sack yardage. As long as he's healthy here, maybe a slight lean on the Bobcats for me.
Kent State at Auburn. Kent State will get their leading receiver from last year, Isaiah McCoy, back as he had missed some action last. I don't know if he was suspended or not. And that could be Dixon, 597 and 5 touchdowns last year. I'm sorry, the lead receiver is Mike Kerrigan that's back. It's McCoy and Dixon out of the backfield that have done a decent job there for Kent State. For Auburn, they come off the win against Oregon and then take care of business last week. Whitlow out of the backfield has been their main guy. Bo Nix still running the show at quarterback. Kennesaw State was the win that Kent State got, and they're ranked number 11 in the FCS, so a better win than most people would think after losing at Arizona State 30-7. Brad, your take, because there's a lot of points for Auburn to lay, 35.5, 54 the total.
Yeah, especially with a big road game against Texas A&M on deck for them. I think Bo Nix has been a little too inconsistent, and you'd expect that from a true freshman to lay this kind of number here. I'd lean with Kent State.
Yeah, this is a weird team. This Auburn team, they looked very, very questionable against Oregon. Then they cover against Tulane. Then the spread's suddenly 35 in this game. They have significant advantages basically at every position athletically in this game. I always see a team like this once a year who they have these unreasonable spreads and they consistently cover them. I think that Auburn is that team this year. So I would lean Auburn in this game.
Meanwhile, Washington State recovers a fumble deep in Houston territory, up 28-17, 6:34 to go, as the Houston Cougars have fallen apart in the second half. Next game on the docket, it is Florida and Kentucky, and Florida losing that long winning streak last year in the Swamp. They're going to try and avenge that loss. Kentucky with Sawyer Smith at quarterback because they lost Terry Wilson. He is out for the year. They'll rely on Smoke and Rose out of the backfield. Lynn Bowden Jr. is a receiver. They want to get the ball in his hands. He is their main playmaker. No more Blake Snell, no more Josh Allen on defense. P. Ryan and Clement out of the backfield, pretty good there for Florida, but the defense is where the Gators will hang their hat as well, behind Zuniga, one of the better defensive linemen in the country already. 3 sacks, 4.5 tackles for a loss. In the game, the line has climbed up to 9. Florida -9, 47.5 from Lexington. Brad, it'll be pretty hot there as well when this game kicks off.
Yeah, I went with the under earlier in the week, although it was 50.5. Now it's down to 47.5. And what I saw was, the new quarterback Sawyer Smith's a better passer, but I mean, he's going to be facing an elite pass rush. In fact, right now, the best pass rush in the country, with Florida already having 15 sacks on this young season so far. And on the other side, without, I would say, Florida's best playmaker, Tony, the wide receiver, I think Florida could struggle offensively. I still lean with the under.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Brad on this one as well. I think Florida -9 is the play, though. I think they win this game by a decent chunk. They have a really good wide receiver core. They have Hammond, Grimes. It's not just Kadarius Toney. But C.J. Anderson is out, so that could be an issue. But I just think Kentucky can't score any points against Florida.
All right, meanwhile, a first and goal for Wazoo at the 5-yard line. It'll be second and goal as they go down to the 5:30 mark. Fourth quarter, Wazoo 28, Houston 17. Next game on the docket has Georgia State and Western Michigan. Georgia State, Coach Sean Elliott doing a nice job with 2 wins at Tennessee, and they beat Furman, a decent FCS team. Dan Ellington doing a nice job throwing the ball, 7 touchdowns, no picks. Tim Lester struggling as coach for Western Michigan this year. Wassing, pretty good quarterback, but they got tattooed in East Lansing pretty good last week. Western Michigan will lay 8.5, 69.5 the total. This line has dropped as far as the side, and the totals continue to climb. Brad, your take?
I'm going to fade the line move here. Big money on Georgia State as the line continues to drop, but right now my numbers say Western Michigan more close to 10 here. I think they get a bounce-back win.
Yeah, what did I say? I said they would lose, 24-21 last week, and they just got completely destroyed by Michigan State. Yeah, we'll go with Western Michigan -9.5. They do have Watson can play quarterback pretty well. They've got some weapons. My lean is Western Michigan -9.5.
All right, and then Texas State, they'll be at SMU. The Ponies behind Shane Buechele doing a pretty good job. Xavier Jones doing a nice job, has 6 rushing touchdowns already. Wins against Arkansas State and North Texas for the Ponies. Texas State, Gresh Jensen, Tyler Vitt, neither one can throw the ball to guys on their own team. 6 interceptions already in losses to A&M and Wyoming. In the game, it is SMU -17.5, 62 from Dallas.
Yeah, I'm going to slight lean on Texas State here. I thought they had a misleading game against Wyoming. One of the most misleading games of the week. Just listen to this stat line. Texas State, 27-16 first down edge, 444 to 293 yard edge, but they're -2 turnovers, including the key play of the game, a 72-yard interception return touchdown for Wyoming. Because of that, I think there's some slight value on the Bobcats.
Yeah, over 60.5 here. SMU is going to score a lot of points, and they give about 5 yards to carry. Texas State can run the ball a little bit.
Duke's at Middle Tennessee, and Brent Stockstill missing his kid at quarterback, going with Asher O'Hara in losses to Michigan, but they beat up on Tennessee State last week. Meanwhile, Quentin Harris, the 50-year senior, is running the show for Duke. They come off a win against North Carolina A&T after getting tattooed by Alabama. Duke, a 6.5-point road favorite, 50.5 from Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
Yeah, it looks like a fishy line, KT, only 6.5. I think Duke's, this is sometimes where the market gets a little too smart for their own good. And I've seen this with Middle Tennessee throughout the years where they're only catching 3, 3.5, 4 against Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt beats them by 4 touchdowns. I think Duke's impressive. Quentin Harris had himself a game last week. Duke's defensive line's better than expected. And I liked what I saw from them the first 20, 25 minutes against Alabama. Give me the Blue Devils here.
Well, I like that breakdown, Brad. That was outstanding. I was actually on Mid-Tennessee State. I'm changing my breakdown. I'm changing my decision just off of how good that breakdown was.
Really?
So I'm going Duke -6.5.
Wow, that is awesome. Not only does Brad
Powers
give out plays, but
you got to make up for it.
Not only does Brad get off the game, Brad says, you know what? JD gets off the game. He says, Brad, you totally turned me around. Beautiful stuff right there. Brad Powers, all the college knowledge.
That's what we call impromptu radio, my friend.
That is good stuff. Hawaii at Washington. Hawaii team 2-0 after nipping Oregon State 31-28 after beating Arizona 45-38. They dominate the Pac-12. They ought to just move into that conference. Meanwhile, Washington comes off the home loss against Cal after the weather delay. Jacob Eason, 4 touchdowns and an interception over 500 yards. Ahmed out of the backfield, 163 and 2 touchdowns. But that loss just stings for the Husky faithful. They'll have to take it out on Oregon when they get a chance. But I don't know. Washington, that offense just did not look that good last week. They're going to lay better than 3 touchdowns, 21.5, 58.5 against Hawaii. Man, I just can't lay that with Washington. I don't care if it's Peterson off a loss. I know Washington's a physical team, but they lost 9 starters on defense. I'm not sold that they're going to be able to cover these little guys from Hawaii. Hawaii is a team that's, able to spread it out. And you've got 2 guys, Bird and Ward, that both have 4 and 5 touchdowns respectively, Brad. 2 little guys that are pretty good speed. I think Hawaii would be my choice. Otherwise, I'm not touching it.
All right. I'm smelling a bet. And I think I got an idea where he's going to go. I'm going to lay it here. I've seen Hawaii make these road trips where they're a big dog, and they've just laid down the last 10 years. In fact, there's 17-game sample size here where Hawaii's been a 20 or more point underdog on the road, and they failed to cover those games by an average of 8 points per game. To me, this really reminds me of the BYU game against Washington last year. Everyone was saying, how can Washington lay 17 against BYU? And everyone left and right was taking BYU. Final score was Washington 35-7. I think they blow out Hawaii here, and I'll be happy to bet anybody here.
When's the last time you've seen a Hawaii under 60 points?
Oh,
I haven't. It's been a couple of years, I think. I'm taking the under in this game, under 59.
I'll take a bet there.
I'll take the over in the game. And, Brad, I'll take a shot. You give me the 21.5.
I'll give you 21.5.
There you go.
All right, action.
There you go. Got to have it. Got to have those times that we just say, you know what? I think Hawaii is going to lose the game. I know Washington will bounce back. But that defense last year that was so dominant against BYU, 9 of those guys are gone, including Ben Burr-Kirven, who had 190 tackles or whatever the guy had last year. So we'll see. I know Washington's smarting after losing. That's pretty good Cal defense. Hawaii's offense, though, very fast, the little receivers. See if Washington can cover them all night long. TCU and Purdue, Alex Delton, Max Duggan, both guys played quarterback so far for Gary Patterson, and they're going to Purdue. Elijah Sindelar is a game-time decision according to Coach Brom. We'll see how that goes. Rondale Moore, David Bell, pretty explosive players. If Sindelar doesn't go, Jack Plummer would be the guy. But the major loss for Purdue, they lost their all-everything tackler. Marcus Bailey had 100 and some odd tackles last year, 115, I believe. Had 14 in the first 2 games, blew out his knees, out for the year. Brad, that's a major loss. Purdue catching 2 in West Lafayette, total 53.5.
Yeah, with TCU off a bye and Purdue banged up, I could only go with the Horned Frogs here.
I'm actually going to push back and go Purdue plus 2.5. I think Duggan's a freshman. The other quarterback hasn't looked great. I've seen Alex Delton play at Kansas. He wasn't great at Kansas. Kansas State. And Purdue has a lot of weapons. David Bell is a 6'3", 200-pound wide receiver.
Who's going to be throwing it to him?
Top 50. I think Sindelar plays.
Oh, wow, off a concussion protocol. I just don't see it. This line right here says he's more doubtful than questionable, in my opinion.
Wazoo did get a field goal, 31-17. The back door's open, 3:36 to go. Houston's ball, and we'll keep an eye on that as that game rolls on down. Clemson and Syracuse, next game on the docket, number 1. Trevor Lawrence, not impressive so far, but, getting the job done. Has 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He's rushed for 2 more. Etienne, pretty solid, but not a great game last week as they took care of business against A&M. A&M probably should have scored earlier in the game, but got a backdoor touchdown on the last play on a 4th and goal to lose 24-10. Lynn J. Dixon has been exciting for Clemson as well, and Ross and Higgins, 2 of the best receivers in the country. Syracuse, boy, I thought they'd have a chance to win this game going into the season. Line is up to 28. Tommy DeVito will have to take care of the ball. Mo Neal, Abdul Adams will have to do something out of the backfield. Taj Harris, Sean Riley, they got to play their A game just for the Cuse to stay inside 4 touchdowns. I took a shot. Look, if I'm thinking they got a chance to win it, and they played them tough the last 2 years, beat them 2 years ago in Syracuse. Last year I had a shot to get them in Death Valley. But this is a totally different team, and who knows? Brad, you've upgraded Maryland so much, so maybe Syracuse did get blindsided in that 63-20 loss. Maybe Clemson goes through the motions and wins the game by 21. Brad, I took a shot on UCLA.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the hardest bets are the best bets. And by that, I mean, no one wants to take UCLA, so why not take them here? In fact, this kind of surprised me, this number. Since 1980, UCLA's only been a 2-touchdown or more home underdog 4 times. 4-0 against the spread UCLA in that role as a big home underdog. I'll take a shot with them here.
Yeah, I don't think Chip Kelly's going to get blown out by 24-plus at home in his new job. And this over-under at 73, considering how few points UCLA has scored, leads me to believe they're going to score some points in this game. I lean UCLA plus 24 as well.
All right, great onside kick, but recovered by Wazoo. 2:18 to go. They have a 1st and 10 around their own 45-yard line. Keep an eye on it there, as right now Brad and I hoping that this game stays just the way it is, and we may be able to get a little middle there. Houston plus the points, and then Wazoo second half. Brad actually got the best number. He got Wazoo, minus 1.5?
Plus 1.5.
Plus 1.5.
God bless New Jersey.
Wow, I'll tell you what, man. Jersey better get their that's the reason I moved out of that state. I might have to move back, man, just to get lines like that. Northern Illinois at Nebraska, and Ross Bowers, the Cal transfer, will lead Northern Illinois into Lincoln. They got the cover against Utah, Adrian Martinez has been sacked 8 times already for Nebraska against South Alabama and Colorado. Absolutely mind-boggling. I don't know how good this Nebraska team is anymore, Brad. Nebraska's minus 14, 54.5. Brad Powers, I don't know. Part of me wants to take Nebraska, but I'm not laying it.
I'm not either, KT. I mean, that second half last week shook me against Colorado.
Yeah,
I thought I had a winner there at 17-0. I mean, I guess that's why they call it gambling. But you look at Nebraska's last 15 home games, only 3 covers for them, and a lot of lip service from Scott Frost. I can't trust him here laying a big number.
Yeah, Bowers has been relatively accurate. The offense hasn't looked terrible. They have a couple of decent weapons. Martinez has not looked good. In fact, he looks slow. They don't really have any weapons. They've got J.D. Spielman as their lead wide receiver. Why are they giving up 14 here? I think I have to lean Northern Illinois. I just can't find a reason to take Nebraska.
Texas off the tough loss at home against LSU. Ellinger and company will look to get back on track. Ingram out of the backfield will try and help out his quarterback Ellinger, who has been outstanding. He's rushed for a touchdown. He's thrown for 677, 8 touchdowns, no interceptions on the season. Duvernay has been a receiving machine, 21 receptions already, 3 touchdowns. Eagles and Johnson have combined for another 4 touchdowns and 15 catches. They'll take on a Rice team that's going to go with Tom Stewart at quarterback. Boy, they're just in trouble without Wiley Green quarterbacking, but I don't know. Stewart may be a better quarterback. Rice at home in Houston catching 32, total 56, Brad.
Yeah, big number for a Texas team that coming off an emotional loss against LSU. Not sure I want to lay it here, but I'm not sure I'm going to take it with Rice without their starting quarterback. The game's going to be played in Houston right here at NRG Stadium where they're playing tonight's game. Still isn't over yet. And then yet Houston's playing a home game on Sunday in the NFL. 3 games in like 40 hours for this stadium. Be interested to see there maybe go under in the Sunday game. But as far as this game, Texas Rice, pass for me.
It's a weird one. The line's 32. They just lost to LSU in that odds. Texas is going to score points. They're going to score 40 points. We know that. They're outstanding. Rice is not very good offensively. They're not going to score many touchdowns. They might get a couple of first downs. The line at 56 makes me wonder. I think Texas just blows these guys out like 43-10. I like Texas minus 32.
There you go, to cover by a point. I love it. That's just great.
Yeah.
And he had to think of it, the backdoor math right there.
Right,
well, I mean, 33.
There's a chance that Rice doesn't score in this game. It's a possibility.
Meanwhile, Wazoo throws the ball on 2nd and 8 with 1:30 left. Houston only 1 timeout. Don't understand why you would not run it. Mike Leach sometimes.
He's unbelievable.
Whatever. I know he's quirky.
I go back to that bowl
Here he
game.
hands it off to Borghi. Look at this. And Borghi gets the first down, which is perfect. And Houston has just 1 timeout, so Washington State can kneel on the ball.
Borghi hurt, though.
And, we'll wait and see. But he got the first down. That's all that matters. He looks good there. All right, last game on the docket, Texas Tech and Arizona. Get out the abacus. Texas Tech minus 2.5, total up to 75. Khalil Tate, J.J. Taylor, they'll try and get it rolling there for the hometown Cats against Texas Tech, led by Alan Bowman, who has 713 yards, 5 touchdowns already. And they got the transfer from Utah, running back Armand Shine, already 172 touchdowns on the ground. Brad Powers, he's getting 9 yards a carry. Shine, going to be a fun game to watch with Taylor and Shine in the backfield, and then Bowman and Tate quarterbacking.
Yeah, I'm going to be square here for the last game of the evening and go over the total here. You look at Arizona, even last week, 51 points scored offensively at halftime against Northern Arizona. Texas Tech's defense is better this year, but they still got an explosive offense. I like the over.
Yeah, it's hard to argue the 77 considering it's the highest total on the board. Yeah. Texas Tech is allowing 44% completion percentage to teams. If Arizona can't pass for 55%, they're not going to win this game. I like Texas Tech minus 2.
Brad, real quick, any FCS, FBS confrontations that you like the points or laying? Is there anything that you like for the listeners?
I mean, intriguing line is Nevada laying 9 points against Weber State. I just laid 7 points with a better team, in my opinion, San Diego State a couple weeks ago, and couldn't get the job done. I would almost lean Weber there.
All right. By the way, the back door is now officially opened, and the game is over. Wazoo wins at 31-24. Sometimes that's the way to go. I had Houston, brought it up to 10, and then came back, laid 4.5 with Wazoo's second half, so get the middle. Brad, you love when you have those that fall right in the middle.
There you go. Good job, buddy.
All right. Real quick, before we take our break and come back with the NFL rapid fire, Clemson defensive tackle Xavier Thomas, questionable. Let's go down and check on Daryl Mack, remember, he's probable now for UCF. Will Craig, left tackle for Cal, he is out for the year. For East Carolina, cornerback Colby Gore is suspended. He's a starter, and he will miss the game tomorrow. And right there after that, they're not sure. C.J. Henderson, ankle, doubtful for Florida. Kadarius Toney, as Brad told you, he is out, their wide receiver. For Hawaii, Furuta, the running back, questionable with an ankle injury. Iowa, Merriweather, their DB, is questionable as well. Alaric Jackson, we already told you, is out for the Hawkeyes. For Northwestern, Bowser, the running back, is out. For Notre Dame, we mentioned their tight end Kmet is back, but they're going to miss wide receiver Armstrong. Jameer Smith, the running back, is questionable, and Chase Claypool, the receiver, also questionable with a shoulder injury. For Ohio, their running back Julian Ross is out. Let me see. Ohio State, we mentioned Devon Hamilton, nose tackle. He is out. For Syracuse, defensive lineman McKinley Williams, he is questionable, and Kenneth Ruff questionable as well for the Q. Still need both those guys to do some damage against Clemson just to keep that game close. Tay Barber, wide receiver, questionable for TCU. For Texas, B.J. Foster is out with a hamstring injury, fine defensive back, and also Overshone is out with a neck injury against Rice. For A&M, we talked about Jashawn Corbin. Prior to the Clemson game, he's out for the year with a hamstring injury, not playing tomorrow in an FBS game. Florida State, Logan Tyler, 7 punts on the year, has been suspended. They're starting punter, so they'll go with Tommy Martin at punter. Big loss for Purdue. We talked about it. Marcus Bailey, he is out for the year, their best defensive player. Sindelar, game time decision. We'll find out if he goes at quarterback for the Boilermakers. Marcel Murray, questionable, Arkansas State's running back. Buffalo, Evan Finnegan, their punter, he's out for the year, broke his leg last week. Zach Lefebvre, their tight end, is questionable as well. For South Carolina, Shea Smith, questionable, good receiver there. And let me see if there's anything else. Yes, Patrick Taylor is out, running back for Memphis. Marshall, also Abialo, is out, their fine receiver who has 4 touchdowns already this year. And then Wilson, right tackle, out for Georgia. And Rochester, their nose tackle, questionable. Starkle, we told you, Arkansas's quarterback, is in. And Stanford, they're going to miss Foster Sarrell, their right tackle, and Ricky Mizon, their linebacker. And then Syracuse, Sam Heckel, their center, is doubtful. A look at the injuries. Big one for Brad. Quez Watkins is back for Southern Miss, reinstated after being suspended last year. 72 receptions, 889 yards, and a bunch of touchdowns. And so that is key for Southern Miss. Fayolo, the tight end for UNLV, 4 receptions. He is also out for Tony Sanchez. Take our final break. Come back. We'll go rapid fire NFL SportsX Radio, the new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN. We are live at Legacy Stadium, Venetian Palazzo. Come on down and see us. SportsX Radio. Coming back on a Friday football fiasco. Ken Thomson, Brad Powers, J.D. Sharp. As most of you know from Shaken, and my wife, big music fan, we will all miss Eddie Money, passing away at the age of 70 today. Sean McCullum producing the show. He's back at the studio and getting the music on, the bumper music. SportsX Radio finishing up a Friday football fiasco at beautiful Legacy Stadium inside the Venetian Palazzo. Ken Thomson, Brad Powers, J.D. Sharp, and we are rolling. We're getting into the NFL. Last night, Carolina could not move the ball on the ground. Christian McCaffrey held to a low, both rushing and receiving. Cam Newton threw for a lot of worthless yardage, and a nice win on the road by Tampa Bay. Winston, when he had time, was rather solid and kept it to the guys in his own shirts, and that was key as Tampa Bay gets the win. We'll start it off with the NFL, with the Colts and Titans, and we'll run down some injuries at the end if we have time. But the Colts and Titans, Tennessee off the impressive win in Cleveland, opened up at a 5.5-point favorite. Right now, 3.5. Most places have 3 minus 120. Indy at Tennessee. Brissett 0-2 against Tennessee. How about Tennessee 0-11 against Andrew Luck, but 2-0 against Brissett? Oh. Brad Powers, what about it?
Yeah, you got to think Tennessee's happy that if there's any franchise that's happy Andrew Luck retired, it's Tennessee. That being said, I'm going to wait and see if I can get a hook here. I'll take the Colts, a team that could have easily won outright at the Chargers last week, if not for Adam Vinatieri missing several kicks.
Yeah, KT, I like the under 44 in this game. 2 pretty solid defenses. Tennessee has a very good secondary. Brissett doesn't really have the wide receivers to work with. I like the under.
Yeah, that total dropping as we speak down to 43.5 most places here in Vegas. Speaking of those Chargers, They are a 1.5-point favorite, down from 3 against the Detroit Lions, 47 the total. Lions costing me on the Super Contest chance to go 5-0, and up 18 points. Just didn't know how to close. End up 27-27.
Shame on you. You're laying points on the road with the Lions.
Yeah,
Kyler Murray. Look,
that.
listen, Chris Wynn, man, he's got a bad influence on a lot of us, and he got me for the last time. I think. I don't know. Maybe take a shot. I know Fez said last night Lions was his favorite play. He gave it out last night on the show. Chargers still 1.5, 47. What about Rivers and the guys? I was very impressed with Eckler out of the backfield, making you forget about Melvin Gordon, at least for a game. Charger team now going to take on Detroit. Detroit's back home. Home dogs are interesting in the NFL at different times. Detroit, though, when they play a team with a winning record, with Matthew Stafford, their record, 6 wins and 51 losses.
Oh, wow. All right, I'll pass now, KT. But I will say, on Fez's point, the Chargers are really banged up. Multiple starters out for them for this game. And, I mean, if Detroit wins in Arizona and covers, KT, what's your I think your general perception of Lions would be much better than what it is right now.
Oh, yeah, and I think it would be a pick'em game.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I like the Lions +3 and the over 47. Hawkinson looked great last week. Stafford's got a lot of weapons to work with. The Chargers are very banged up, and Kyler Murray was decent under pressure. I think the Lions have a really good defensive line and a pretty decent front seven. I think they're going to cause Rivers a lot of pressure.
I think the Bills are getting a little bit too much love. I mean, I watched that offense last week for better than 3 quarters. They struggled mightily against the Jets. Jets didn't play well. They got to 14, but it was a weird way or 16, a weird way they got to 16 with a safety involved there as well. Now the Bills are going to lay 2 against the Giants. Total's 44.5. Giants got that first touchdown against Dallas, and then they got pummeled the rest of the game. But the Giants are going home. Now, the interesting thing for the Bills is they're back at MetLife Stadium where they were last week.
Yep.
So it's not like an uncommon road venue, and they stay inside the state of New York. Josh Allen, he went at it pretty well, and Singletary ran the ball pretty nicely. The Buffalo defense was solid, especially in the second half. Meanwhile, for the Giants, boy, they're just going to probably turn their attention to the backup quarterback, Daniel Jones, in a matter of time. But Manning didn't really play badly, and Saquon Barkley did have some nice runs. Your take, Brad, Giants +2 at home, 44.5.
Yeah, I want to have a slight lean on the Giants, but, I mean, the Bills were impressed with the fact that they were -3 in turnovers last week and still won a football game. That only happens about 10% of the time in NFL history. And I'm a little worried about the Giants. Greg Cosell, he's from NFL Films. He's breaking down the Giants game from last week, and he said that's some of the worst defense he's seen in 40 years of following game tape. So I'm passing.
I would actually lean Bills -2.5 here. I don't think the Giants are going to give Saquon Barkley the ball, and I like Tre'Davious White. I like the Edmonds kid. I think they have a pretty decent secondary, and I think their defense matches up well against Ingram, Shepard, and Barkley. I'll take the Bills -2.5.
All right, you only have to lay 2 here, JD, so we're going to give you the better line because we like it.
Fair enough.
All right, Arizona at Baltimore, line climbing up to 13.5, now back down to 13, 46 the total. Look, Kyler Murray, I'm not saying that he didn't play much better in the fourth quarter, because he did. But I think Detroit stopped putting the pressure on him, thinking that they had that game won, took their foot off the gas, and it came back to bite them. That prevent defense a lot of times will prevent you from winning, or in this case, it helped them tie the game, 27 apiece. They've got players, Arizona, Fitzgerald. I like Christian Kirk a lot. There's no doubt David Johnson's an exciting player. But I'm not sold they're going to go into Baltimore and hang in this game. Now, deceiving game, too, for Baltimore, taking on a Miami team that's just as woeful as can be. And the 5 touchdown passes by Lamar Jackson, probably never does it again in his career. So, I like Lamar Jackson as far as picking him up, putting him down. Boy, I don't know on this game. I can't take Arizona, and I don't think I want to lay all those points. I'll stay away from this one. Brad?
Yeah, actually lean with the big favorite here. And don't be afraid to lay double digits anymore in the NFL. In fact, if you're doing it the last 3 years, you're covering 64% of the time. That's double-digit favorites. NFL since 2016, 64% against the spread if you're blindly betting on them. With that being said, he's got an Arizona team, 10 a.m. local start time for them. And what's the truth of them? Is it the fourth quarter or the first 3 quarters? Give me the first 3 quarters. I think Baltimore blows them out.
I like the under 45.5 KT.
6.5-point teaser will bring the Ravens under a touchdown down to 6.5. Keep that in play as well. Remember, those teasers come into play much more in the NFL games than they do in the college games. Fez will tell you you're crazy if you tease two-teamer in college because 75% of the time, that team that you teased, if you won, you would have won without having to tease them. So word to the wise as far as that goes. Meanwhile, the Patriots and Dolphins, those same Dolphins that lost 59-10 to the Ravens are now catching 18.5 at home against New England. Total is 48.5. Look, New England embarrassed Pittsburgh 33-3, but Pittsburgh really couldn't move the ball. And I think we always look at Tom Brady and the offense. All right, there's no Gronk, but at the end of the day, that Patriot defense looked pretty stifling. And with the McCourty brothers running the show on the secondary, I mean, I'm thinking New England may come close to shutting Miami out. So eventually, I think they'll expand it enough to probably cover that number. So I cannot take the number, even though it's the NFL and it's 18.5, Brad.
Yeah, I'll take Miami here. Second largest away favorite role in NFL history here. And teams in the last 30 years in the NFL coming off 30-point losses have covered 55% of the time the next week. But the way you're speaking, KT, I think there's value on the under as well. If you think Miami's going to be not able to score here, and I don't really think New England is going to want to run it up on the Dolphins here, I like the under more than anything at this point.
Yeah, I actually disagree. I like the over here at the 47.
Oh, really?
Why is it 47? Miami clearly can't score any points. New England, they won 30-3 last week, and Miami's still an NFL team. They still have NFL talent. I kind of like the over.
All right.
And the Dolphins.
You want to bet on that?
Yeah, let me just tell you right now, it's going to be 90 degrees at game time, which means on the field it's going to be even hotter. I'm just letting you know. I mean, and that could help. Who knows? Maybe it helps your maybe the defenses are tired. Not New England's because they won't.
I mean,
on the field.
routinely hot temperatures help the over. To be honest.
Yeah, sometimes. You know, the Patriots they have Jamie Collins back when he was huge last week too. But yeah, I think this is still an NFL team.
So you're going over.
I'm going over.
And you're going Miami.
I'm going Miami, but I'll bet you on the total.
Okay, what do you want to bet?
Whatever you want.
So you're going over 48.5.
I'm going over. Yeah. Oh,
That's what it is now.
It's 48.5.
I see it at 47 on my sheet.
All right. Well, what it is now, 48.5. You got to bet.
JD.
I mean that's a serious number.
JD's looking at 48's a key
yeah,
number.
I'm seeing 47 here.
Oh, those are old sheets.
Yeah.
Those are beginning of the week. You got to adjust them.
Okay. Over's fine with me. We'll go 100.
We'll go 48.
Dinner bet.
All right,
48.
fair enough. A smooth 48 dinner bet. We'll go to the Golden Steer.
All right.
Either way. And KT's coming, but he's paying for himself.
There you go.
Got it.
I thought JD's being like this gentleman. And KT's coming. He's there. He's sitting silent.
Unless you want to get involved in the bet.
I'm the guy over here sitting on the button, and I'm just my ante's already in. I'm just sitting there. I just want to see my cards. Help me out here. All right, Cowboys and Redskins from D.C. Cowboys up to 46.5. Dallas really got it going at home. Dak Prescott still working on the new contract. He wants to get up over $35 million at least from Jerry, and I think he can do it if they go in and rout the Redskins. Now, Washington got off to a great start, 17-0 at Philly, but then couldn't hold on, although they did get the backdoor cover after relinquishing not only the 17-point lead, but also the double-digit cover.
Yeah.
Brad, what about it? Washington catching 46.5. Are the Redskins good enough to cover this game and maybe even win the game? McLaurin looked good, the youngster out of Ohio State.
Yeah, whenever you're looking to back a road favorite, in this case Dallas -6, I always ask myself, okay, if you're willing to lay the 6, flip the home away, 3 points. If you're willing to lay 6 on the road, would you be willing to lay 12 if this game was played in Dallas? I wouldn't. Therefore, I lean Washington.
It's a no play for me, KT. The line just makes zero sense. I was very unimpressed with Washington. Darius Geis is out. That's pretty common knowledge, and the Cowboys just looked amazing. So it's a no play for me.
My nephew, who's a Cowboys fan, says I never bet on them in the blue jerseys. He goes, I just don't like it. All right, Jacksonville at Houston. Jags, of course, losing Nick Foles. Gardner Minshew, though, the youngster out of Wazoo, stepped in and was winging the ball around the lot, just like he did up in Pullman for many years. Jags are catching 8.5 from Houston. Heartbreak loss for the Texans. Deshaun Watson, a great drive down the stretch. It looked like he had him in position to win, only to see a Lutz 58-yard field goal deny them after a 75-yard drive in 2 plays. Carlos Hyde also ran the ball very well. I think Houston's going to take care of business in this game, but up to 8.5, 43 the total.
I like the under.
Agree with Brad 100%. Under.
Tease the Texans down to under a field goal. I think you're going to have one part of your tease right in there. Seahawks and Steelers. Steelers 3.5, 47. Look, they can make you look bad. I mean, New England can at any time. So off a 33-3 loss. They're going to be refocused, find out what they have now. I think Smith-Schuster, who's been cleared for the game, has a big game. I think Pittsburgh takes care of business. Was not impressed with the Seattle defense. Very fortunate after all the yardage they gave up to Dalton and John Ross. Yeah, John Ross sighting over 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think the Seahawks come back to life. I think the Steelers pick up some momentum off that loss from New England. I think the Steelers roll by double digits, Brad.
Yeah, I'm on the Steelers as well. I mean, Seattle, very misleading win last week. Seattle's terrible on the road, weeks 1 and 2 since 2007. 1-14 straight up, 1-13-1 against the spread. I like the Steelers.
Yeah, they have a lot of. I agree with you guys. Steelers -3.5 is my play. They have a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball as well. DK Metcalf doesn't impress me.
I forgot we got to get out of 58, so 6 games in 4 minutes. We can do it, guys. 49ers and Bengals. Bengals -146. Dalton off that big game. San Francisco secondary got into the act and got that clinching pick 6 against Tampa Bay. Boy, this is one that I would tease the Niners up over a touchdown, but it's down to 1 now. So be careful there. 46 the total. I was impressed the way Cincinnati played, but they couldn't close it out in Seattle, Brad.
Yes, just a slight lean for me on Cincy because they're off that misleading loss against Seattle, and San Fran benefited from 2 pick 6s last week. Lean Bengals.
Lean Bengals as well, KT.
Thought Green Bay may go under that 3. It was 3 even money. It's now 2.5 -120 on Green Bay at home against Minnesota. Cousins didn't have to do much last week, so he didn't. He handed the ball off to Dalvin Cook. Alexander Madison out of Boise State, the rookie, also had a nice game. Look, they got Thielen, they got Diggs. They're tough, but I like Green Bay's defense the way they played against the Bears. We'll have to find out. This will be a good gauge as we get to watch this game. I think, there's no doubt Rodgers will have a better game on the home turf. It is Vikings catching 2.5. If you like Green Bay, you lay 2.5 -120. If you like Minnesota, you can probably find +3 -120, Brad.
Yeah, I'll lay the 2.5 here with Green Bay. Extra time to prep, and then Minnesota really benefited from turnovers and a block punt last week. I lean Packers.
Yeah, I'll lean under KT 45.
All right, about 2 minutes to go here. Let's go to Kansas City and the Raiders. Down to 7, was at 9, and 53.5. Raiders, of course, losing Abram. Chiefs without Tyreek Hill, Brad.
Like Oakland here, KT.
Yeah, press coverage. I don't think that KC's lineman can stop Oakland's D-line.
I hope the Raiders win it, baby.
I hope so, too.
Saints and Rams. Rams -252. I know it's the biggest revenge game, but I'm not sold the Saints are going to be able to do it off the short week. They were fortunate just to get a win. I didn't like the way they had trouble moving the ball. Remember, Ingram not in the backfield to help out Kamara. Brad, your take right now, Rams -252.
Yeah, give me the Rams here. The Saints 1-10 now against the spread the last 6 years in weeks 1 and 2 to start off the season. I think they moved to 1-11.
Under KT.
All right, Bears at Broncos. Bears -2.5, up from a pick 'em, 40 the total. I'm looking at Denver at home in the Mile High City to bounce back off the Monday night loss. Not sold on Trubisky. Might be the sophomore jinx here, Brad.
Yeah, last 30 years for the Broncos at home, week 1 and 2, 33-3 straight up. So that means when they're catching points, they're 33-3 to that number. Give me the Broncos.
Bears +1, KT.
Eagles and Falcons Sunday night. Eagles laying 252.5. I'll look at the home dog, Brad.
Yeah, I do too. I like Atlanta in this one. Matt Ryan's 10-1 straight up and against the spread in home openers. Give me the Falcons.
A lot of points scored in this one over.
Last game, Monday nighter, it's gone up 4 points since we found out that Sam Darnold has mono. Browns -6.5, 44. Everybody in the super contest on the Browns -2.5, Brad.
Yeah, I think too much of an overreaction to the loss of Darnold. I'm going to take the Jets here plus a 6.5.
Wow. I like Cleveland -6.5. It's a crazy play, but
Well, just bet it right here.
I mean, come on.
Bet it right here. No juice.
Trevor Siemian.
Another bet.
Bet right
No,
here.
I'm more confident in the Patriots bet.
All right.
We could do something tiny if you want to. I don't care. Whatever you want to do.
$20.
Perfect. Let's go.
That's perfect. It's going to do it for us live here at Legacy Stadium on a Friday football fiasco. Thanks to Sean back at the studio, and thanks to you, the listeners. We'll have all this stuff up on archive in about 2 hours. SportsX Radio, the new 101.5 FM, 720 AM. You know the rules, folks. No drinking and driving, no texting and driving. Most of all, God bless our troops. God bless you. Live from Legacy, SportsX Radio. I'm Ken Thomson. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you Monday. Good night, everybody.